What's going on, guys? I'm Jiffy Nano, and it's been a while, but I'm back with another Borderlands video. Well, actually it's a Wonderlands video, and this game is pretty complex, so strap in, this might be a longer one. This is my Brr-zerker Stabbomancer build I'm calling the Bladestorm, and right off the bat here are the skill trees, but stick around because there's a few things I want to explain. Also, quick addendum, while I was getting this video set up, Moxie was making his Stabbomancer build and found an interaction with melee and the live wire SMG. This causes lightning chains to hit all nearby enemies when dealing damage, including melee and Executioner's Blade, so that would be a great add to this build as well. I do try not to copy other people's builds, so if there's similarities, they're not intentional. I have a lot of respect for my fellow creators, and a big thanks for Moxie for his video. His vid will be down in the description talking about the Livewire SMG. Now back to our skill trees. As you can see, we go all the way down the Stabbomancer tree to grab Executioner's Blade. This capstone still gives you a 20% chance to create an ethereal blade on a gun or spell crit that will impale the enemy after a short delay. This pairs incredibly well with the From the Shadows action skill, which should be pretty familiar to people, as it's almost identical to Fade Away from Borderlands 3. You turn invisible for a short time and all damage you deal is automatically crits, but the crits deal less damage. I had a lot of fun with this combo, causing a bunch of these ethereal knives to stab a boss or tanky enemies, and while it can do some serious damage, unfortunately it's not the best at the moment. This, along with other melee-based action skills and passives, are based on your melee weapon, but these skills don't receive the bonuses from those melee weapons, only the damage. For example, the Banshee's Wail will shoot out up to 3 projectiles when you melee enemies, but does nothing with any of these skills. This means there's no reason to use any legendary melee weapons in particular. Instead, you just want to find the highest based melee weapon you can find and put a good enchant on it. In the Stabbomancer tree, we also take Swift Death, which is essentially Zane's Violent Momentum skill, where the faster you move, the more damage you deal. So we're going to take Haste and Cold Snap in both the Stabbo and Zerker trees for extra damage, and Elusive in the Stabbo tree, which lets you sprint and shoot at the same time. Now in the Berserker tree, you want to grab Icebreaker. This skill gives you more damage against slowed and frozen targets, and most of the weapons you're going to want to be using are Frost. Frost damage is incredibly strong in this game, giving crowd control, and frozen targets take 300% more melee damage, which works perfectly with our Executioner's Blade. Lastly, the Stabbomancer has 2 skills based around elemental effects, those being Exploit Their Weaknesses and Alchemical Agent. Exploit Their Weaknesses debuffs enemies for each status effect they have on them, and Alchemical Agent applies a random status effect when you get melee crits. This is one of the few things that seem to work with Executioner's Blade, and sometimes can get a crazy high damage dot on enemies, but is incredibly inconsistent. Either way, you'll want these two because you'll be stacking statuses and debuffs on all the enemies you hit with Executioner's Blade while your action skill is active. For our hero stats, I maxed out Strength and Dex as Village Idiot for crit chance and crit damage. The rest is preference. I would lean into Attunement probably for action skill cooldown, and Wisdom for status damage. Now into the gear. Because Executioner's Blade only has a 20% chance to proc, you'll want weapons that shoot multiple projectiles at once and have a high fire rate. The more crits at once in a short amount of time means more chances at spawning the blades. I was using this purple black powder riveter pistol, which is essentially a Jacob's masher, and this purple Cryo Smg. The SMGs you're looking for are the ones with this barrel. A lot of people have been talking about these. They shoot 4 to 5 bullets at once, but slow their fire rate as you hold down the trigger. Only the Cryo version of these guns shoot the 4 to 5 bullets, any other element being a beam, so you really want the Cryo version. This SMG will carry you for a long time. Mine was Hyperius. I kind of wish it was Furio or something because the reload on this one was terrible, but these purple SMGs are insanely good. The legendaries I was using for the most part was the Liquid Cooling and the Handbow. Both of these pistols will more or less give you unlimited mag size when you hit crits, which is perfect for our action skill. But honestly, anything that shoots fast and has a lot of pellets will do you fine. You don't even need these legendaries. So the Warden spell I was using was the Cursed Wit and the Buffmeister. These probably don't need any introduction. A lot of people have been making videos and using these. The Cursed Wit will increase your close range damage when broken, and the Buffmeister is a self-buff spell increasing all damage dealt. These help a lot because our action skill has a pretty long cooldown, so the extra damage in between action skills helps quite a bit, but stacking these damage bonuses was how I was able to get the speed kills on these bosses. Currently I have some really good rings. I have a couple of volatile ones, but I was using basic ones for most of the footage. Just look for melee and crit damage and action skill duration and cooldown. Same thing goes for the amulet, just look for the best stats you can find, but my favorite legendary so far is the Universal Soldier. This has a 30% chance to refill your mag when you deal melee damage, so you can just keep laying in the bosses and tanky mobs when your Executioner's Blade hits. Now the armor is still something I'm on the fence about. For most of this I was using the Smart Armor, which reduces your crit chance by 50% but increases your crit damage by 50%. This is obviously really good with our action skill because we're guaranteed crits, but honestly I haven't really found an armor set that has a skill and passives that I like yet. The Warped Paradigm, which has a variant that increases melee and ability damage by 50% of your spell damage, might end up being better for melee builds overall, but right now I just don't know. All in all, I had a lot of fun with this build. It's super fast, it can deal a lot of damage really fast if you're lucky with your crits, and I really hope that melee weapon effects not working with skills is just a bug or something and gets fixed, because this would be so much fun with some of the legendary melee weapons, but for now, it's just pretty good. I'll likely update this build over time as I get better gear and learn the mechanics and interactions of this game, so stay tuned. I have more builds like this coming along with silly vids, gear guides, and just more, so if you guys want to see that, consider subscribing and hitting the bell, checking out my live streams on both Twitch and this channel. Check out my Twitter and TikTok for memes and random thoughts of my smooth ADHD brain, and until next time, have a good one.